Very good morning. Now I'm going to share my screen. Today we are going to discuss about wait 1 minute. What is happening? Yeah. Yes. Today we are going to discuss about classical liberalism, modern liberalism, and the neoliberalism. So we are discussing about liberalism. In our previous classes, we discussed liberalism as an introduction. Then after central themes or principles of liberalism. Now today we are going to discuss about classical liberalism, modern liberalism and neoliberalism. In this discussion we are going to differentiate these three things, and also we wish to pay our attention in current situation. I mean the liberalism in the time of global COVID-19 pandemic context, right? So yes, sometimes I can remember some of some of you were studied liberalism, classical liberalism in your school time as a A-level student. Uh, then after modern liberalism and neoliberalism as school student. But in here, we are going to discuss bit deeper. So that's the difference between our discussion and the discussion you had when you were in school level, right? So classical liberalism, it is called earliest version of liberal tradition. It means the first version of liberalism. So these ideas developed at the time of emerging new world context. It is called modern world, or in 15th century in Europe, as we know, the pluralistic system was collapsed due to number of reasons. We discussed these things, right? So after that, gradually, step by step, it takes a long time, but gradually, step by step, new version of economic pattern, new version of political systems, new version of social norms and ethics were started to develop, right? So, because of that, during that time, new version of political ideology, actually, it's a new political ideology emerged in that situation. It is called liberalism. The first version of liberalism is called classical liberalism. That's why it's called classical. I mean, original form of the liberalism, right? Why new ideology under the name of liberalism emerged in that situation? That is a question we should ask, right? Why that type of political ideology emerged, right? Because we can give this type of answer for that question. New empirical contest emerged. What type of empirical contest mean? What type of empirical contest? The whole system had been changed, right? At the time of pluralistic system, people were bonded to certain land. They were guided and monitored by the landowners. They are the leaders of people. The people, especially Serbs, they cannot do anything in accordance with their own choice. They cannot earn money. They cannot decide their personal things for their choices. They were not paid laborers. They were bonded laborers for the particular land. They cannot avoid, they cannot violate their bond. Right? Lifetime, they are bonded to that particular land or land owners. A small piece of land for constructing a house, sometimes clothes, food were given by the land owners to them just for survival. Otherwise, their lifestyle, living patterns were very brutal and very poor when that time. Right? There was a big pressure among them. But the people started to think gradually, then they produced new things. For example, electric bulb was produced by Thomas Alva Edison. Then after, Edison and his son started to produce electric bulbs. It means they started they started a factory to produce electric bulbs, right? So then, likewise, other thinkers, they started to think, they produced new things, new items, innovative things. Then some of them started their own factories. Otherwise, the people from the business community, they started new factories to produce new items, new product. Then they need labor. So that news went to the village area. It reached to the people, especially young people, youth, those who are working in bonded lands. Then they started to think, why we are working in here, because there are new opportunities open enough. If we go there, we can decide what we can do, what we want, right? So we can earn money for our labor. So they started to think as this. Then what was happened? The young generation in bonded lands, they escape, they violate the bond, and they came to the industry, factories. They started to work with factory owners in the particular factories. But at that time, there were no good working environment, 8 hours working working day, workers' rights, good facilities for the workers. They were not there at that time. They have to work a lot, but earn bit amount of money. But they can earn, right? Earlier, at the land, they cannot earn. Now they can earn, but comparing their expenditure and expenses, it is very small money. So, however, they started to work there. Then the young generation is there. You know what was happened that, right? So then the relationships, friendships were mm, built up. Then after marriage and certain kind of things were happening. Because of that, many of them settled down nearby the factory. Then after urbanization came into exist. First, people think and they produce new things. Then industry came into exist. Industrialization came. Then after urbanization came into exist. Then new system, new banking system, financial systems came to exist because the uh, business people, they want to have money for their business. So then new banking system and new religion, which is support to new banking system, came into existence because at the time of feudalistic system, there were religions, but they did not support good financial system because they thought that having interest is a sin. That's not a good thing. Therefore, they discouraged financial system. But new contest urged good and efficient financial system. That's why new financial system came into exist, right? Because of that, new religion they emerged, especially Protestant Christian religion. Uh, it emerged, and it has to give its support to the uh, newly emerging business people as well as bankers, right? So then, at the time of feudalistic system, king was there, but he was not powerful. He was not that much of powerful because local leaders, local elites, local rulers, they were the most powerful people at the time of feudalistic system. Feudalistic system, right? They were the most powerful people. Sometimes they cannot hear what the king says, right? They were that much of powerful. At that time, king was there, but he cannot do anything against them because he has to depend on the local elites for the uh, strategic purposes. If the king needs military persons, he has to request from the local elites, local leaders. Uh, that's why king has to depend on local elites. However, Local elites were combined together by the church, Catholic Church at that time. However, new context changed everything. Factories emerged, urbanization came into exist, new monetary pattern came into exist, then the money circulation came into exist, paid labors were there. There were a lot of things, new religions which support to new changes were there. Because of all these things, new political theory or new political philosophy or new political ideology need to be exist there, right? That gap was fulfilled by the classical liberalism. Liberalism emerged to fulfill that gap. Which gap? The gap which was created by empirical situation in the modern world. That's why liberalism is called as capitalism. Sometimes liberalism is called as capitalism, right? On the other hand, it is called 19th century liberalism. And literally, sometimes it is called 19th century liberalism, right? However, cradle of the classical liberalism was the UK. It means classical liberalism started firstly in UK because industrialization started firstly in UK. So that's why to fulfill political gap or theoretical gap, philosophical gap or ideological gap, which is suitable to new emerging context, liberalism came into exist. I think you can understand what I'm saying, right? If you have any questions, any comments or clarifications, please raise your hand using your Zoom technology, or you can just speak, then I can give a chance for you to raise your question or clarification or whatever the other things, right? Or otherwise, after the discussion, you can ask your questions. It's open for everyone. Don't be afraid, right? So interaction is very much important for our discussion, uh, teaching and learning process. So now I'm going to talk about uh, principles of classical liberalism, or otherwise we can say it, characteristics of classical liberalism, right? The first thing is egoistical individualism. Egoistical, egoistical. As you know, Sigmund Freud uh, identified our mind as three categories, right? Ego, uh, ego and superego. Right? The political scientists borrowed this word from the psychoanalysis of Sigmund Freud. Egoistical. Egoistical means too much self-centered, selfish, or we can say politely, self-centered individualism. There are many individuals, they are always thinking about themselves, not by the others, not the not about the community, not about the people, not about the others, right? Their foremost thinking is uh, about themselves. That's the first one, egoistic, right? We never mind what is happened to others, what is happened to other places. We never mind what has happened to our friends, our university mates, or maybe our brothers and sisters. We are fine, we are good, we are stable, we are in good health, we are in good mental health, right? We are with very comfortable. We are in very comfortable situation. So why we are bothering about others and other things? The people, those who are living under the liberalism, especially with the classical uh, uh, type of liberal mentality, they're thinking about in such a way. I think you can meet. I think more friends, people like this, right? We are in our community. They're not thinking about, most of the time, they're not thinking about the others. They are always thinking about their, themselves. The second thing is belief on negative freedom. Negative freedom. Whenever they are, whenever whatever they are doing, they believe that they would have a negative freedom. Negative freedom. Negative freedom means absolute freedom. Whatever the power they have, whatever the money they have, whatever the social status they have, they think that they can do anything. Right? They can do anything. In our day-to-day life, we can, when we see the media and news, we can observe this type of situation, right? While walking on the road, right? There are big and luxurious vehicles coming in right side and wrong side and doing lot of accidents and paying money and just escaping from the legal system. Right? These kind of things are happening. So if you have big power, big money, big social status, not the power and money. Sometimes people may have big social status, civil power. Most of them like to misuse it for their benefit, on just for their benefit, right? I think you can understand what I mean. Sometimes they misuse it to do harm others, the individual, other community, sometimes other ethnic people or other religious people. They use it to do harm others. That is the thing of classical liberalism. Not only in Sri Lanka, but in the world context, we can see very big, powerful leaders, right? How they behave, especially in this global COVID-19 epidemic, global COVID-19 epidemic situation, right? How we can see how they behave. in Sinhala, there's a saying that Tani Alia, right? Tani Alia means one elephant, which is wild, one elephant. Anyone cannot control that type of elephant because he is that much of violent. People, especially living in liberal system, in our system, we are in liberal system. That's why I'm saying I'm our system, right? Some of people living in the system, they think that, or we feel that they are the Tanialia, wild elephant in liberal contest. Whatever they think, whatever they feel, whatever they can, they will do that. But because of their behavior, rest of the world will be threatened. Rest of the world will be destroyed. All right. So people, those who are having liberal or classical liberalist mentality, they are uh, like to behave in such a way. That's why Thomas Paine, very famous scholar, and US scholar, he said that uh, state is a necessary evil under the uh, liberalism. State is necessary, but it is evil, very bad one, right? Therefore, they believe, especially classical liberalists, they believe the duty of the state should be very minimal, very minimal. Because of that, new concept came into exist. It's called minimal state. Minimal state. Minimal state means, sometimes state or its government as it states urgent, they are doing some kind of business, selling goods and services to the people and earning money. For example, in Sri Lankan context, Sri Lankan government, uh, we have Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation, right? What they are selling? They're selling insurance for the people. By selling insurance, they are earning money. Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation. So, by doing that, the state is involving the business. I just take that example to make this concept more clear, right? Sometimes railway, we are having let's go train system. Who are the owners of trains? The government. It means the state. The state is doing business. How? Providing a train system for the people. That's the service and earning money, right? So this type of businesses are there in state. sometimes in the concept of minimal state, what they advocate, according to their point of view, state should not do business like that. Businesses like that, for example, insurance business or providing train and like that, right? So state should avoid business matters. All business matters or business type of things should be given to the private sector. That's their duty. They are the experts of doing business. Government is not the government or state are not the experts in business, according to the point of view of classical liberalist, right? That is why they're calling it minimal state. State should behave like a policeman or night watchman. If there is anything wrong, the policeman or night watchman can involve. Otherwise, they cannot and they should not. They can do their own business. They can do their own work, but not the business. But business part, commercial businesses are the part of inevitable part of private sector. According to them, private sector is born to do business, right? So that's why they are highlighting, advocating minimal state, the concept of minimal state. This next one is, according to their point of view, the government should provide good environment, positive environment for civil society. Then some economists of classical liberalism, especially Adam Smith and David Ricardo, they advocate a self-regulating market economy for uh, the society. According to their point of view, demand is there, supply is here. Demand and supply. Once upon a time, then demand and supply cross each other. That crossing point is the actual price and actual selling price and actual buying price of this good and service in that economy. I think you can clear. Demand is there, supply is there, right? Like this. Then there's one point crossing demand and supply each other. That crossing point is the point people can buy, people can sell their good and services. According to those scholars, David Ricardo and Adam Smith, the market economy is led to self-regulated. Government should not regulate it. Government should not intervene in the market economy. Government should hand over that matter to the private sector, right? Private sector, they are the experts in doing business in marketplace. The price will be decided by the demand and supply. Those are the principles of classical liberalism. So then I put the picture about chess game. There are two persons in this chessboard, cat and rat. Right now, you can decide who is the cat, who is the rat. Uh, you can give your own interpretation. That's up to your analyze. Maybe state is the cat, private sector, maybe the rat, or cat symbolizes the private sector, or rat symbolizes the state. It's up to you, right? Then I'm going to move discussion. I'm going to talk about modern liberalism. I have said that classical liberalism emerged in 15th century, actually developed in 16th century. It was developing in 16th century. When it comes to 17th century, 18th century and 19th century, especially 18th and 19th century, uh, these two centuries are the peak centuries of capital uh, capital industry, or classical liberalism, or industrial capitalism, actually, not the capital industry, industrial capitalism. 17th and 18th century, these two centuries are the peak, I mean, highest developed era of the uh, industrial capitalism. Because of that, these centuries were the centuries of classical liberalism. It means people, business people, government people, politicians, scholars, all of them accept classical liberalism as their political ideology at that time. Because of that, new problems, new issues arised, right? Uh, Spread of, some of them are spread of slums, poverty, ignorance, diseases, lawfare, unemployment, degrading living and working conditions, continuous degrading living and working conditions. Those type of questions, these type of problems emerged, especially in the 20th century, when the time of 20th century. Very big issues were there. Other thing is that when 1930, there was a great depression in capital economy in the world. Great depression. Depression means very quick, deep, and sharp uh, decreasing of the economic growth level. Economic growth, sharp and quick uh, collapse of the economy, economic depression, right? politicians, scholars, the statements, and the business community, they cannot do anything. They were shocked, and uh, they were very stuck, like like this situation, right? This type of this COVID-19 global pandemic situation. Politicians, statesmen, scholars, scientists, people, everyone uh, in present context is shocked. Uh, Likewise, in 1930, the world has been shocked by this economic depression. Apart from that, these questions, problems were also there. Then, these are the pictures of slums. Then, it is called that depression is called Wall Street crash in 1929. That was the main reason for that. So, Great Depression of in the 1930s, right? So, it was the result of failure of the pre-market economy or acceptance of classical liberalism and laissez-faire economic policies. So then it was happened because uh, until that time, everything uh, has been decided, everything uh, has been decided by the demand and supply by these two variables. So, but in 1936, new scholar came into existence. His name is John Maynard Keynes, UK born scholar, right? John Maynard Keynes. John Maynard Keynes produced a new concept, new idea in his famous book, General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money. General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money. He wrote that book and published it. And publishing that book, he presented new idea, new concepts. Actually, he advocated to the world to change your pattern, change your system. Until now, the government has not involved in economic matters, but according to Keynes, government involvement in economic matters should be increased. Then also, government involvement in uh, social protection or welfare factor uh, is very important. It means government should provide welfare to the people, sanitary facilities and other things, welfare facilities to the people, subsidiaries to the people. As while doing these kind of things, government should do involvement in private sector, or government should try to regulate economic matters. That's his advice. Then the world accept this idea and implement for a long time. However, New situation emerged again when the time of 1970s. World situation is again new. Why is that? New organizations came into exist. They are called multinational corporations. They emerged in Western Europe, and they established over there, and they started to spread their influences to the rest of the world, and they uh, expanded their power and influence to the especially Asia, Africa, and Latin American continent countries. Those who are in those uh, countries, those who are in these continents, right? Then they started to do business, global business. Other thing is that after Second World War, many all of the colonial powers they gave freedom for their colonies, or sometimes colonial people they were able to get their freedom by fighting with the colonial powers, but some others they were in peaceful manner or communicative manner, they selected non-violent manner, and they earned their freedom. However, after the Second World War, when 1950, most of the colonies were having their freedom. Right? The colonial powers, uh, what they did, they give up their colonies. But when 1970s, a new mechanism came into exist. As I mentioned before, it's called multinational corporations. The head offices were there in European countries, and there are other branches are in rest of the world. So they wanted to expand their business. That's again newly emerged situation. To fulfill this demand, new version of liberalism came into exist. It is called neoliberalism. Neoliberalism. Firstly, it emerged in UK as a movement. It's called the New Right Movement. The New Right Movement. Then after it spread into USA, jointly, I mean simultaneously, UK and USA started to accept the points which were raised by the New Right movements, right? When that time, Margaret Thatcher, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, was the UK. President Ronald Reagan was the USA. So under the Thatcherism and Reaganism, New Right movement uh, received huge capacity to expand their policies and programs. Laissez-faire economic policies came into exist again. Then again they highlighted government role or state role should uh, confined to a managerial role. It means that government should behave as a manager. not the uh, big boss. It's the manager, right? It means that private sector, big private sector is there. It is international private sector, which is involved in with global multinational corporations and very uh, networked private sector. Therefore, government should behave like managers. That's their demand. Neo uh, liberals. Then again, likewise, classical liberalism, they highlighted they want to establish neo, sorry, laissez-faire economic policies. Laissez-faire economic policies means anyone can come to, anyone can enter to the country, anyone can do business, and anyone can exist whenever they want. Anyone can come, anyone can do business, anyone can exist from the marketplace whenever they think. Actually, that's the concept of laissez-faire economic policy, right? Laissez-faire. It, in literally, it can be said that government should not impose rules and regulations on the market. Government should not impose rules and regulations to restrict foreign investments, or I mean, uh, entrance of the multinational corporations. Government should not do anything against them, right? So that's their demand. To fulfill those, fulfill uh, these demands of the neoliberalism, new institutions came into exist, especially Bretton Woods institutions like World Bank, IMF, International Monetary Fund, there's some GATT, World Trade Organizations. They uh, they prepare the ground. They prepare the ground. They prepare the suitable ground for the smooth function of multinational corporations and smooth functioning of the laissez-faire economy policies. So global flow of financial capitalism, globalization, privatization, restructuring state-owned entrepreneurships, those concepts, policies, and programs came into exist under the name of neo-liberal economic policies, right? According to neoliberals. So these are the principles of neoliberalism, right? Now we discussed about classical liberalism, modern liberalism, and also neoliberalism. But new economic, I mean, COVID-19 global pandemic situation, new contest emerged. Therefore, neoliberal economic policies, global economic policies, the day-to-day operations of the multinational corporations, day-to-day work of the international, what's it called, international trade, they all are stuck. So then the scholars, thinkers, they are thinking in these days. Sometimes they published a lot of research papers in this contest, in this time, in this pandemic situation time, right? In post COVID-19 situation, new version of liberalism, new version of economic system, new version of international trade, new version of way of dealing with economy might maybe came into exist. New version might become. So that's why I said that earlier. This COVID-19 changing everything, right? In the future, it might be happen. So now I'm going to stop now. If you have any questions, clarifications, now you can raise your voice. Anything do you need to know? Senali?
No, sir. All clear.
Everything is fine?
Yes, sir.
I
Everything
think
is
you studied these things in school level, right?
sir, I didn't do political science for A level, so
Really?
yeah.
Oh. You didn't study political science in your A levels?
No, sir. Straight away I started in the university for the first time.
Oh, okay. But you can understand these things?
Yeah, I can understand.
Oh, okay, good. So I use this simple language and simple
Yeah.
words to describe these things.
Yes, sir.
So then, Shamila, thank you very much, Senali. Shamila,
Yeah, sir.
anything?
It's clear.
Okay, thank you. Then the
No,
Sankalpani?
sir.
Sankalpani?
No problem, sir. Clear.
But today there are less number of students, no? I don't know why and
Yes, sir.
why does it happen? Maybe signal problem or other things, no?
Yes.
Okay, shall we continue our discussion in next day? Next day means Friday. Thank you very
Okay.
much for everyone for coming and participating and giving your feedback, right?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for everyone.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.